The stimulus package that seemed like it may never get through was finally passed by Congress and is now awaiting President Trump's signature. The $900 billion plan is the second biggest economic rescue package in U.S. history and includes $600 payments for most Americans, which could include college students. So here now to discuss how this population could benefit from the payments is Quick Takes Madison Mills. Maddie, good to see you. To start, explain how college students can get in on the stimulus payments.
Thanks so much, Scarlett. So I'm here in Tampa, Florida, very close to a lot of universities filled with college students who may not know that they're eligible for this funding that just got passed. So I want to break down how this can happen, right? There are two big factors here. One is age. You have to be over 18. So the overwhelming majority of college students are going to check that box. The other box here is taxpayer status. You want to make sure that you're not claimed as a dependent on either of your parents' tax returns. And also, what's important to note is you don't actually have to be a taxpayer yourself to get this funding, to get access to it. You just have to be what's called a qualifying taxpayer, which again, just means that you're not a dependent on anyone else's tax returns.
So what else do college students need to do to make sure that they can get those checks?
Right. So this is the big thing. Personally, I'm not great at logistics. So getting me to go to the IRS website and figure out how to do this would be a challenge. So I want to walk you through it. The IRS commissioner was actually quoted trying to encourage college students to get in on this funding. He said college students in particular should be careful not to overlook these payments if they're supporting themselves and can't be claimed as a dependent on someone's tax returns. So Scarlett, you asked the question on everyone's mind, how do you actually do it? Well, if you're not already a tax-paying college student, you can go to the IRS website. There's a section that'll walk you through how you can claim this funding. If you're already a tax-paying college student, then it should come into your bank account as a form of direct deposit, and students can expect to see that funding as early as next week.
So all this raises another question. What about college students who are now realizing that perhaps they did qualify for checks back in the first stimulus, back in March, and they didn't get any money? Is there anything they can do about that?
Right, Scarlett. And what's interesting is that it's not even just college students. Millions of Americans kind of slipped through the cracks in that first round of stimulus funding. So the IRS has a way to kind of amend this. There's a rebate recovery form that you can fill out in your 2020 taxes if you did not receive that first round of stimulus funding and you think that you were eligible to get it. So college-age students who are just realizing I could have gotten that $1,200 can fill that form out again as they file their 2020 taxes to make sure that they get that first stimulus check. And again, they can also potentially get this $600 check, which means that college-age students stand to gain about $1,800 in federal funding for the year 2020.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question for one of our producers, Ted Fine. If parents have already claimed their child as a dependent, is it too late for them to do anything about that?
Right. So unfortunately, you kind of need a reason to go back and say that your kid is no longer a dependent. But if you do have a reason, now is a great time to stop claiming your child as a dependent. This is a good time to kind of let your kids fly from the financial nest here. If your kid is going off to college and they're entering adulthood, if they've started making money and they're supporting themselves, now is a great time to stop claiming your child as a dependent. And again, they stand to gain a lot of funding from the federal government if they are not claimed as a dependent on anyone else's tax returns.
Okay, we'll be sure to pass that on to Ted to let his first two children go and not claim them as dependents. Maddie, as we close out our conversation more broadly, millions of Americans were waiting for some kind of relief. They needed some help. They're waiting for some kind of check. We're getting something. It's going to be $600. What's the sense of whether this is too little, too late?
Right, Scarlett. So this is kind of the dire situation that we're in because of the pandemic. And I just want to point out a couple of numbers here. 6 in 10 Americans are facing financial hardships right now due to the effects of the pandemic. We're also seeing over 8 million Americans slip under the poverty line from March until now. And of course, millions are food insecure as we head into the holidays. And what's even more kind of disturbing about the situation, right, is that we're seeing COVID COVID cases continue to surge. So this is only potentially going to get worse. We're seeing more and more cities go into lockdown, and that's only going to continue to hurt these small businesses that are really relying on local economies. So there's, of course, hope on the way with the vaccine, but it just remains to be seen whether this stimulus funding is going to be enough for Americans to survive off of until enough people get the vaccine for us to really move past this pandemic.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people say this is just a down payment on something bigger in 2021. Maddie, thank you so much for breaking that all down for us.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.